I'm a Gen Z really deep down.
Yeah.
You have to do what you need to do to get to do what you want to do. Money is just a means to an end. It is not the end. You can always achieve what you want in life with just good financial acumen.
Hey guys, welcome back to Financially Incorrect. I am your host, Barrack. Remember, this is a podcast that is sponsored by FX Pesa. If you want to learn about trading, if you want to open a demo account and just try and figure it out for yourself, please check out the links in the description box. Before we get into my discussion today or the conversation that we're having today, I'm just going to put out a disclaimer. A disclaimer really quickly, just for some feedback that we got about 2 weeks ago, and just say, the people who we have on Financially Incorrect are not financial advisors. In fact, the only financial advisor we've had is Amos Ngahu, and you can go check him out and check out the stuff that he does and what he talks about. But essentially what we do on Financially Incorrect is we talk to different people in different industries about their money journeys, the things that they've done. You know, money is a very, or understanding financial literacy is a very technical thing sometimes. And there's the very obvious element of it, of you want to be able to spend less money than you're making, and those are the good financial principles. But many times in practical sense, it doesn't go like that, and that's why we have these discussions that we're having to understand how everybody is going about their money journey. Because of course we all know technically, how to make sound decisions, so to speak, and we want to understand why is it so difficult to do that practically, and hopefully through the stories that people tell here, learn from them. I mean, we've had people say that people gain financial literacy in their 30s, some in their 40s. So it's really just about trying to tell as many stories as possible and finding something that you can relate to. And I think from everybody who's been on the podcast, you can pick up something. If not, I guess it's also cool. Understand the story here. The story might be entertaining. And move on. So today, actually, I think we have a really, really entertaining conversation, a really good story at the very least, that we're going to hear from none other than David Murithii, who has been a DJ, a creative expert, an entrepreneur, real estate mogul as well. He's sort of jerked back at that description. Yeah. We'll hear him clarify that if that's a mistake. But yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Are you nervous at all? Talk about your...
Not in the least.
Not in the least,
I like
no?
to talk. To talk. I get paid to talk, usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Did I get your description right, first of all? Let me start there.
It works for now.
It works.
Yeah.
How long have you been DJing?
35 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I started DJing back when I was in university in Manchester in 1988. That gives my age away. So I'm turning 55 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I still feel like 30. Like in my soul.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a Gen Z really deep down.
Yeah. Why do you think that? Or why would you say that?
Because I think my attitude towards life is slightly different from some of my contemporaries.
Okay.
I like to live very presently.
Yeah.
I'm a hedonist, which means, without its negative connotations, but I love pleasure in every form: art, music, food, just living life fully and doing the things I enjoy.
Right.
And I've been quite lucky to get to a place where I can really do the things that I enjoy.
Yeah.
But it's not for everyone, or it's not that easy for everyone to get there necessarily. Yeah. Sometimes I always say you have to do what you need to do to get to do what you want to do.
It's an interesting statement. The closest that I ever got to, or have been involved in any DJing, and this is not, I definitely know it's a exceptional craft and it requires skill and all those things. But when I was in high school, there was the Fruity Loops craze.
Oh yeah.
When everybody, I guess at the time around me, downloaded Fruity Loops, and everyone was trying to, work around it and create all these sorts of mixes. And then, I never happened.
It's never too late. It's never too late.
But I appreciate the skill. I appreciate a good DJ. And I think also just in the creative space, definitely appreciate the ability of being able to make somebody or people in a crowd feel good and understand a crowd and get a crowd dancing or up and moving or whatever the case
We're
is.
therapists.
So, yeah.
We're actually therapists who use music. It's actually, DJing should actually be called music therapy. I know there is, a skill set and a certain career known as music therapy, and it's usually used, for example, music to heal cancer patients or to help ease their pain and everything. But really, music is therapy because, we're coming up to different seasons in the year. There's Christmas, there's Valentines, and each of these are actually characterized by certain music that plays in shopping malls. You always hear Christmas music, and when you're shopping, you even shop more when you hear that Kaboniem song. And then Valentines, you go to a restaurant expecting there to be love songs.
Yeah.
In the background. You won't be playing like some heavy metal rock on a Valentine's night, or and so on and so forth. On your birthday, you expect some harmonized song to be playing there in the background as your cake is coming.
Yeah.
So music's actually, and if you're studying maybe for whatever, or laying back, kicking back, you're probably listening to some jazz or some easy R&B or something to ease your mind. So really, it does affect your mental state. Mm-hmm. And by virtue of that, it really is therapy.
Yeah.
And what we really are, sometimes I term myself as a music curator than just a DJ, because I believe as a DJ, one of the skills you have is actually reading the crowd and responding to it. And it comes with experience, but looking at a crowd and saying, what music would they like? And I tell you, that's a sweet spot.
Yeah.
When you see guys either bopping their head or just responding to it, whether calmly or excitedly or whichever, but just seeing that response, that's our sweet spot as DJs. That's our affirmation. That's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's changed in this space in the last 35 years, do you think?
Technology.
Just
technology. Like a lot of careers, everyone wants to be a DJ, as they say. Back in the day, everyone wanted to be a lawyer or an accountant or this and the other. It got flooded. But that was in physical form. Now it's that much easier. There's less barrier to entry.
Right.
Anyone with a laptop, any kid with a laptop can become a DJ or producer, etc., etc. But as you said, it takes a bit of, like a lot of things, the 10,000 hours. It takes a certain amount of skill practice to actually become a good DJ.
Yeah.
As opposed to just becoming a DJ who can play music, which is easy nowadays, because again, with technology, anyone can play, any set here and there, etc. But those with a bit of a deeper knowledge and a bit more experience take it to a different. I think that's where the music curation part steps in. That differentiates the DJ from the more experienced DJ.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into it. Right.
Let's go.
First question I want to ask you is: do you believe in Valentines?
I thought you were about to ask me whether I believe in God. Do I believe in Valentines?
Do you believe in God?
So I believe in a higher spirit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think overall, I believe in spirituality. I believe there must be a higher force than just us. Now, what that force or what that energy or what that form it takes in is now defined by different religions. But essentially, all religions, whether what Christians would call pagan religion because they're praying to an idol or praying to this or that or facing the mountain or whatever it is, but all those so-called religions and other than the agnostics believe at least there's a higher form than us.
Yeah.
There's something else controlling our vibes and our frequency and our energy.
Yeah. So
I think at a basic, I definitely do believe that we tujihambul kiasi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I let me, before I come back to this other question, if I go down that route in a bit more existential space, what do you think then this higher power's role is if we're looking at a distribution of wealth in society, or determining, I guess, the people who are privileged and people who are not privileged? What do you think?
A lot of people have concepts again in different. I'll refer now to religions. Concepts of heaven and hell. And a lot of people also believe in the afterlife. A lot of people believe in, when you die, you get happiness afterwards because there's no more pain. What I really truly believe is your heaven and hell is here on earth as you live. And you can either create it or not. I mean, it's up to you. But it's your heaven and hell is basically determined by your actions. So, for example, you can even be agnostic. You might even not believe in it, but just be good to people at a very basic. Throw good vibes out and good vibes come back. Now, in relation to let's say finances or financial management, etc. I think, again, you can create your own heaven financially by taking steps to just manage your money better. Be it creating opportunities to earn more, be it managing your costs. I think that's your own personal heaven, so to speak, when you get that under control. So the belief that, I was born this way, so I'll never make it because I wasn't either born in this family or... I think that's totally dispelled by so many stories.
Right.
It's not about where you came from. It's really about your attitude towards it.
Right.
That then determines whether it's going to be heaven or hell for you.
Okay. Interesting. So, Valentines, are you pro?
Are you asking whether I believe in the day called Valentines?
No,
because
yeah, I
that's
guess
a pagan thing.
in the celebration
or is
of
it,
Valentine's
do I believe
Day?
in love? Which one are you asking?
Well,
me?
in the celebration of Valentine's Day, in the
celebration of love, which is what they say. So
yes.
when you look at Valentine's, the real history, it's actually quite dark. But really, I think in modern days, Valentine's is meant to celebrate basically love, and it can be love between lovers, between friends. For example, this Valentine's that passed. I had breakfast with my very close friends as a celebration of Valentine's. So really, Valentine's means different things to different people. My daughter's now 17. For the last 16 years, okay, no, not since she was 0, but maybe since she was 4, I've always celebrated Valentine's with her. We've usually had a lunch date, and I spoil her rotten. Because I always believe, a girl's first male love is her father. So it's a first demonstration of what love looks like from a male point of view. So I believe in love. I believe love in every form of it exists. And again, it's a slice of heaven. This heaven people talk about. It's there on earth. Again, you determine your happiness through it or not, by choice of, do I believe in it? Do I pursue it? So in celebrating Valentine, I think it's just, a lot of these celebrations, whether it's Easter or which Happy Independence Day or whatever, they really just point to remind us.
Right.
It's not an end all. Some people, it's the only time they'll buy their lovers or their friends flowers that one day.
Right.
So I don't believe in the sort of finality of that day. It's like, whew. And let's face it, as especially men, it's like, it's one of the most stressful, if you're in a relationship, days, because one, you'll remember it either the day before or on the day. You might have forgotten to book a lunch or dinner or something, and you'll be kind of stressed out on that day.
Yeah.
And ladies, if you're out there, just be easy on us on that day. I just want to put this out broadcast internationally. It's rough.
Right.
It's a very rough time for men. You never see happy men buying flowers that day. They're never smiling. I've noticed. Just have a look. They're never smiling. So like, give me what you can.
Yeah.
But yes, I believe in just any chance, again, back to my hedonism, any chance to celebrate something, to be happy about something, I'm all for it.
Take it.
Yeah.
A question, and not on your parenting, so to speak, but just in general, I guess a question around that is, like you talked about spoiling your daughter rotten on Valentine's Day. Do you think that sets her up in the future for certain expectations, or leaves her with a certain caliber of man?
100%. I've already seen the effects of it. I
Yeah.
mean, she's young, she's already been dating, and I see the way she dismisses bad vibes. Chap. She doesn't wait for character development of a higher kind. Yeah. It's definitely paid off. I've seen it in action.
Yeah. Was it intentional?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
You have to. As a parent, you have to be intentional about raising your children.
Yeah.
You can't, that's one place you can't free fall. You can't just haphazardly go through it and hope for the best.
Yeah.
If you want a good outcome, that is.
Yeah.
Maybe some do, but as far as I'm concerned, I think you have to very intentionally raise your children with certain principles and ingrain certain value systems. Because as they grow older, they then maybe advance their own values. But as an initial, you're the initial mentor. You've got to create the value systems, including, and we took our kids to financial literacy classes at the age of 9.
At the age of 9?
Yes. And I'd say they're quite astute right now. I've got 26-year-old, 23-year-old, 2 men, and a 17-year-old daughter.
Okay.
And yeah.
Did that happen for you? Were you taken to financial literacy classes when you were, or financial literacy learning process?
Listen, I was born in BC. we didn't have such things available then
Yeah.
in the 70s and the 80s. However, I was very lucky. I had a very, I would say, hands-on mentor of a father, and including my mother. I cannot actually the real budget chief in our family was our mother. And mothers tend to be very good with money somehow. And back in the day, it used to be fathers made the money, mothers managed it. In our times,
Right.
The men were the breadwinners. That's changed obviously a lot in the last 20 years plus. And so I saw that at play. Whereas my father was a breadwinner, yes, but my mother really, I'd feel, was the manager
Right.
to a very large extent.
Right.
However, I think also just basic value principles around money definitely came from my father.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things I learned from him, because he had a very rough life growing up and made some money along the way through hard work, is the phrase I always remember, money doesn't grow on trees. That it sounds so kawaida and so
Right.
like, of course it doesn't, but he really demonstrated it
Right.
in action. Because we never got pocket money just like that from the age of 6. We had to work for it. So he built some very serious values around hard work in all of us from a very, very young age. Yeah. Just learning to respect that money doesn't grow on trees. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Did you guys grow up in a space that was relatively privileged, or
Oh,
was it
definitely.
a place where? Yeah.
Definitely. And because of that, I think he was more conscious about making sure that we didn't act as if we were privileged or didn't actually take it for granted, the privilege. He always reminded us this is a privilege that you're in. So, and also never to disrespect the privilege or misuse it either. So, yes, I could say I was born in somewhat a privileged setting, but in terms of the value system that came out of it was because it, and why I'm about to say what I'm about to say is because it doesn't matter whether you're born around money or not. I think it's what value system, it's what your relationship with money that's developed. That's what matters, really. It's your relationship to money. So some people see money as a means to an end. My gosh, if I get 1,000,000 shillings today, hizo vitu nitanunua, maisha yangu itakuwa sawa. Some see it as a curse. Some see it as a curse, actually. We've seen it in a lot of wealthy families who, when the main benefactor has passed on, they are fighting each other, and so sometimes it can be a curse, sometimes it can be a blessing.
Right.
But it all depends on your relationship with it. What do you see money as? Is it a means to an end, or is it, again, in certain religions say do not worship idols, money included. Some people
Right.
worship money,
Right.
literally, like, because I have money, I am a small god, kind of. So again, what I feel was ingrained in us by my parents is that money is just a means to an end. It is not the end, and that's all it is. Don't, respect it for what it is, but don't disrespect it, and don't let it ever make you disrespect other people because of it.
What would be an example of disrespecting money? I mean, I get
One.
disrespecting people,
Yeah.
because of money, but disrespecting money, yeah,
Basically misusing it.
yeah,
I think misusing it, not putting it to good use, being extravagant. For example, buying things you don't really need, not helping others in need when you could. So a whole lot of those things. And those are some of the principles I saw, again, my parents doing. My dad educated about 50 children over a period of time. And it's something I've carried on as well, helping others. So, and I can tell you this, if people talk about CSR and all this from a corporate point of view, from a personal point of view, I think I get my greatest satisfaction from money when I help others. That's when I feel it really has maximum value. It's not when I buy a new TV or, that's nice. Hey, nice new phone, New Samsung, are you listening? Samsung, plug. But it's when actually I see it helping others because it can. And because I might have excess of it. So instead of it sitting there necessarily, yes, I'll invest some of it. And that's how I'm able to get some excess of it. But then what else do you do with it? So for me, yes, it's when I see it doing good other than benefiting me or my family directly, that I feel it has its maximum value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you're growing up and you're going through, I guess, being put through, whether directly or inadvertently, these lessons on money. How do you decide to go into, I guess, the courses that you then get into for university? Is it a money proposition? Is it, I need to do something?
I had a very different life journey. I went to the UK when I was a teenager. In my I started school in Kenya, as in Upper Hill, then Nyeri High, and then somewhere in Form 3, I was deported to the UK for political reasons. So I sort of grew up for the next 13 or so years in the UK, which gave me a very different insight, actually, into also value systems. The choice in my generation, and I have to put a perspective here. This was in the 80s. Those days, careers, there were about 6 careers to choose from in life. And let me name them for
Even in the UK?
Even in the UK, to a very large extent, but lesser so than an African parent. Right. So let me give the African perspective. You could either be in the finance world, which is banking, accounting, whatever, medical, engineering, legal, and check this out, teaching, which was respected back then heavily. And the last one, civil service, which again was so respectable. Let me tell you, the man in the village who worked in the civil service, when he went to his rural, he was more respected than, I don't know, what you can compare to nowadays. But yeah, it was a very respectable career progression if you're in the civil service. And those are some of the main, there are one or two others, but those are the main, you had to choose from that pool of resources.
Right.
I wanted to do public relations in my time, which was not even a career back then.
Right.
But I knew I was good at it and I really wanted to. And I had job offers even. I was so excited. I remember rushing and telling my woman, hey, I think I've got like this is what I want to do. He gave me a blank look and said, actually, you're going to do a finance course because you're good with numbers. And that was it. That was the end of that conversation. And that ended there. And I did do economics and accounting as my degree. So to answer your question, that's how it was selected.
Okay. And in that period, are you still going through the pocket money system that you've talked about before, where it's based on achieving certain things? Or
at university it's different. Obviously, then there was a lot of exchange controls. Getting Forex was not easy.
Yeah.
So yes, we had a budget, but it was very limited. And that's what actually spurred me. Actually, if it wasn't for that, if for example, my father had given me, I would say, enough money to actually survive. Yeah. Because I realized one thing back then, they never gave you actually enough pocket money to survive. They still don't even up to today. I don't think we do. Yeah. We do it, I think, on purpose. Now that I have children who are being educated even overseas, I realize you have to nyima them kidogo so they can get a bit independent. Right. And start thinking and getting money of their own. And for me, going to university with the limited expense budget that I had, I very quickly had to get some odd jobs. And this is in 1988. And so I started flipping burgers at McDonald's. That didn't work out too well. I think I burnt a few. No, that was a bad show. I was just like, this thing, mnani harakisha sana. So 1 week I was out of a job. Right. Then I worked as a waiter for a catering company. That didn't work out too well. And then you have to understand, I was 18. I was very hyper. Very hyper. So my attention span was a bit, wanting. Then I became a cocktail barman. That stayed for about a month and a half. That I did pretty well. I had really good tips, by the way. And then a friend of mine, so I was always into music. I used to be a dancer. I was a break dancer. I was actually the Kenyan national break dancing champion at the age of 15. So I was always a break dancer. I loved modern jazz, tap dancing. So this young British guy he was from Newcastle, was a university mate, and he had a turntable and a mixer in his room, just one turntable, not two.
Yeah.
And he was there scratching and everything, and of course, then hip hop was hip hop had sort of just emerged and whatnot. So it was that whole vibe, and I was seeing him doing this stuff. I was like, yo, I've seen this in movies. This is really cool, and So he taught me. He said, hey, just come try it. And to be honest, within a week, I think I can say my skill was naturally always just sitting there, and I found my new skill set. And with that, I started exploring the world of DJing. And here we are 35 years later.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the beginning of what was going to be a very good relationship with music, amongst other things.
So it was really born from a place of, I guess, looking for extra income.
Let me tell you, for sure.
In the UK.
For sure.
Okay. Let's move on to how you get into Ernest and Young, right? So you finish...
I finished uni, of course, having done an economics and finance course. It's very interesting. I told you about, the fact that we had to work to get pocket money.
Right.
I realized we were all sort of encouraged to take certain fields. My older brother was encouraged to get into marketing type jobs. He ended up in marketing. My sister, encouraged to do sort of housekeeping jobs and things like that. She ended up becoming, going the sort of catering, food.
Right.
Well, my eldest brother he loved the kitchen, so he'd always get jobs in kitchens and stuff. He ended up becoming a chef, professional chef. I was always pushed to either do admin or something finance related. So no wonder I was actually quietly nurtured into this thing without my knowledge.
Right.
So finance was nearly, I can just say, it was an inevitability.
Right.
And at the time, some of the best jobs was being an actuary, which I actually looked into until I saw what kind of exams they do, and I said, not for me, thanks. And chartered accountancy, it's something I had tasted, and some of my part-time jobs were with small audit companies in Kenya, so I had a natural affinity to it. And it was good vibes. We got to wear a suit, carry a briefcase in London, so yeah. That's what I went for.
Yeah.
And luckily, after a lot of... No, it wasn't just easy. We had to job hunt. I was tammacking in London. It was... Trust me, guys. Tammacking in a foreign country is harder than tammacking in Kenya.
Yeah.
Trust me. You have no contacts. You have no one can refer you. It's just you and your skill.
Yeah.
But it built character. And I was very lucky to get a job with them.
How much were you being paid, I guess, when you started working there?
You know what? Actually, I can't actually remember. But what I remember is... Chartered accountants were in the city, what we call the city, i.e. the financial world of, you had stockbrokers who were paid through their nose because especially of commissions. So they earned a lot of money, drove very fancy cars at a very young age.
Yeah.
So we looked up to them as like rock stars. Then actuaries were actually paid extremely well, and there weren't that many back then. And then we had chartered accountants. So I think we were the third nearly-ish highest paid people in the city.
Right.
So, we earned a pretty penny. I lived in a very nice flat in London. We lived a good life, own life. But please note, it is very hard work because you did exams as you were working. So you got exam time off, whatever, but you had to do it concurrently. And if you didn't pass your exams, the second time you're kicked out. So you had to
so
really...
High
pressure. It's not... one thing about life, one thing I've realized, and not realized, obviously, it's a bit obvious to anyone, but the higher you're paid in any job, trust me, the more the pressure. There's a reason they're paying you a lot of money. It's not that you can get a lot of money and just have an easy life. It doesn't work out that way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Not in the corporate world, that is.
Yeah.
The higher they're paying you, the higher up you go. Yes, it looks fancy, but trust me, the more so-called blood they're going to squeeze out of you. Yeah. So don't always rush for that promotion.
How do you end up coming back to Kenya?
So a very funny thing happened. So after living there for so long, I became a UK resident. And then at some point they said, I'm eligible for a British passport. Now, you have to understand, those days there wasn't dual nationality. You had to choose one or the other.
Right.
And I remember reading the terms and conditions, said, oh, you have to relinquish your Kenyan passport. I don't know why that struck such a chord. Maybe it was just time to get home, to be honest. I'd been there long enough.
Right.
But I was like, you want me to get rid of my Kenyan passport? I was actually angry. It's like, what do you mean? And just something started a whole conversation about, hey, it's time to go home. It just spurred, and believe it or not, less than 2 months later, I was back home. I just made a snap decision to resign and come home.
No, was there a plan? There
was no plan.
This is what I'm going to do?
Literally, I always knew I'd be able to work for Ernest Young in Nairobi. There was always, the partners used to come and visit, and they have partnership meetings. They say, hey, when you come to join us, when you come, and it was, at the time, it was usually a given that, because, PwC, Coopers and Lybrand at the time, and others had people always coming. They had a program which promoted African, or rather chartered accountants from Africa, but with the proviso that you go back to work in your firm back. So there's always that sort of cycle.
Yeah.
So I knew there's always going to be an opportunity back home. There's no doubt about that. But to be honest, it wasn't top of mind at the time. I just wanted to get out.
Yeah.
It was time to go home and can come and build my country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you come back, work for
Ernst Young, the East Africa office for a while. And for one reason or another, I had a change of heart about my career. I won't get into the details.
Right.
But I felt I'd gotten out of it what I wanted, and decided to exit at a very young age. I'd just gotten married at the time. So I joined the family business immediately, which is real estate.
Right.
What I was born into, so to speak. But at the time also, because I had started an entertainment business in Manchester, back then. So I started, alongside DJing, I also started managing bands. And those days, it wasn't so much electronic music. It was bands.
Right.
With equipment, practice, you have to pick your drums, and it was bands, live music.
Right.
I started managing bands quite successfully, because two of the bands I managed, by the time I left university, had gotten signed up to a sub-label of Warner Brothers, and I got paid off for them because I had a management contract. So this is very important. For anyone out there, creatives, learn to get a management contract early before your band blows up.
Yeah.
Bland blows up. Anyway, and I started doing events at the same time as well. So all these three things, DJing, events, and
management
and talent management, all actually started roughly around the same time.
Yeah.
So it had taken a bit of a backseat, especially the events and talent management, when I was doing my chartered accounting career then. So when I came back home to Kenya, I saw an opportunity and immediately actually set up another entertainment company. And then I met up with a young producer who had been introduced to before and we'd spoken before, called Ted Josiah. And eventually we formed our own joint company called Audio Vault. And yeah, we started managing talent, promoting events, event managing rather, and doing all sorts of entertainment-y, fun stuff. But alongside that was also helping run the family business, which I've been doing since.
Yeah.
So a lot of people I know don't know that about me, but yeah, that's one of the main things I do, which is real estate management and development.
I mean, at the back of your mind, do you feel like, because I guess your family, or I guess your dad had worked hard and set up the family business, do you feel like it offered you a little bit of a cushion? It offered you a little bit of I guess, relief almost, where
yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, where it's like, I can, if all else fails, I can go and work here, or I can go and build this, or I can move into
it was actually never at the back of my mind, ever. Like, if all else fails, never, ever. Because because of that entrepreneurship experience at university, I think the die was cast in terms of self-preservation, for lack of a better word,
right,
and independence. So, no, I never relied on them for any excess, and I never saw that as because it was ingrained in us at a very young age.
Yeah.
In fact, the one thing my dad used to say is, "This money is for your mother and I. So don't wait for me to die if you think you're going to get it. I'm telling you from a very young age, it was put in our heads that this is not your money.
Yeah. How practical is that though?
It's, to an extent, it is and it isn't.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a benefit I had when I did leave my job is that I negotiated, and the word is negotiated, free office space for at least 2 years to get my business off the ground. So that is the one advantage I got, because we're lucky to own a commercial space. So I managed to get some small office space. So definitely that was definitely an advantage. But I didn't get any free loans. I didn't get, no, the business had to make sense in itself.
Right.
So no, in that respect, that's, I think, where the advantage ended. So yes, of course it is an advantage that in that respect, but not in the sense that I had an attitude of, oh, well, if all else fails, I can always just, no, we never had that. It wasn't just in our DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you keep building your wealth, your personal wealth, and keep building, do you ever get to a point where you go through what they call a midlife crisis?
And buy a new sports car, you mean? What?
I guess the traditional sense of that, or whatever midlife crisis, whether it's getting a nearing or, start going out to like younger clubs and doing things that younger men or what they perceive younger people ought to be doing.
I've been very privileged because my privilege sits in the fact that I've been working with young people for the last 30-something, but particularly because of what I do, which is, what I spend 40% of my time doing, which is, traveling around Africa, helping young creative entrepreneurs run businesses better. For the last, I think, 18 years, the privilege of that is it keeps me young. I'm always engaging with young people, and I love engaging with young people because they have such fresh ideas. In fact, very rarely, I know it sounds bad, but do I hang out with older people nowadays? In fact, for the last 15 years, in fact, 20 years actually, only because I find sometimes the ideas or the conversations a bit stale. They're not very vibrant. I love the energy of young people, especially in this Kenyan. And I tell you, if anyone in any form of authority, be it a parent, be it the government, be it whoever, be it even be a big brother and sister, like much, much older, to understand that young energy, youthful energy, can be both creative or destructive, depending on how it's channeled. That the key thing is channeling that energy, because the energy is beautiful and it's there. And it's very creative in whichever form. But sometimes, we joke. We joke a lot about Gen Zs and say, oh my God, the character develop you and all this kind of joke. But I think sometimes we have to be very careful what we say, because it's going to become an attitude that Gen Zs are trouble. They're not. Gen Zs are just Gen Zs. We were also seen as Gen Zs by our parents in their time, if we compared our life and theirs. And I think the difference with today vis-a-vis maybe my time is that I think there's less mentorship today. Gen Zs are left to themselves a lot more to just get through this thing called life with very little guidance. In our time, and I'll keep on using that, just sounding a bit ageist, but in our time, there's a lot more community upbringing. In where you lived, you were raised by your neighbor, your auntie, the community raised you. Right. You can be chappered by your neighbor if you're seen doing something wrong. You won't see that stuff today. Right. You'll sue somebody if your child came crying to you saying the neighbor you take them, you call the police, right? Right. But in those days, it was okay to be chappered by your neighbor because you were seen playing in the water illegally, and then you be chappered by your parents in front of your neighbor to show the neighbor that, no, in this house, we have discipline and this child has gone out of line. Okay, I'm talking about chapping, and I know that it's a very sensitive issue to today's generation. Please take a step back. However, the point I'm trying to make is actually, and we're not mentored by being chappered, but it did play a role, I won't lie. But there was a lot more, I would just say, value systems, development. But back in the day, I think our values were more molded by a lot of interactions and conversations we had with our parents. The difference, I think, with today's generation is probably, as much as actually they're probably talking to their parents a lot more than we did, because those days it was a bit top down. However, they also left their own devices a lot more than we were. So some of those devices sometimes go left field, in our opinion, and some of them go right field. So they have a lot more choice, is what I'm trying to say today.
Yeah.
And I think us as elders, our role is actually to help guide some of those choices. Not to, it's something my dad always used to say, is this: look, my job in your life is to give you choices. It's not to tell you which choice to take, it's just to show you what the repercussions of choices are.
Yeah.
So if you go left, you'll meet thorns. If you go right, you might meet some water. If you go straight, you might just be okay. You choose. That's what he always used to say. But you choose. Of course, more times than not, you choose the straight path.
Right.
But sometimes you choose left and you'll find out, and kumbe, there were thorns.
Yeah.
And that's just life.
Yeah.
I just find there's a lot more lefts and rights today.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more confusing for young people. And there's less guidance, because also, as much as I said, yes, they're talking to parents a lot more and older people. But I think older people and parents and all these kind of people in authority, whether it's the government or whoever, are more distracted
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
So whilst the conversation might take place, they might not follow up in the conversation. So there's just a lot more distraction in parenting, in mentorship. I just feel younger people can benefit a lot more if there were more mentors in their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just my view.
Fair enough. Fair enough. There's a quote. I keep forgetting who said the quote, but there's a quote I think it was in 1970s or 1980s, and essentially he's talking about what you're saying, and he was talking about the younger generation and saying they're impatient and they're this and they're that. Essentially just saying that this cycle repeats itself, and we see whoever the Gen Z are now, when they are here, they will look at the next Gen Zs and say the same things.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so as you're...
Sorry, just backtrack on something. That impatient, and it's true, again, Gen Zs are characterized by being impatient, by being, when you're last in a company one year. That's called energy.
Yeah.
And what they're doing, they are bursting with energy. And I think it's for, if you're running a company and you have a lot of, say, young people in it, it's for you to understand that they have energy and to accommodate it, because a lot of companies are set in their traditional ways, and to realize, actually, this is your workforce too. They have a right to be represented in your company.
Yeah.
So how do you, successful companies today have realized that and have accommodated younger people by saying, okay, we used to do it this way, but I think we're going to do it slightly differently to accommodate that. And because the innovation young people have is beyond amazing. I train young people in business skills, etc., but I always tell them at the beginning, I'm going to learn from you as much as you're going to learn from me.
Yeah.
So it's a dual experience, because they have so many new ideas, and that's where innovation comes from accommodating ideas, etc. So I think it's not so much impatience, but it's lack of access of use of that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to what I was saying earlier. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, I mean, you've talked about, your children, of course, they're pretty adult, studying, so your youngest daughter's just about to, I guess, get into that space. I have a question about, I guess, how you accumulated the amount of finances or the amount of money that you needed to be able to, whether it was take your kids through the schools they needed to go through, allow them to be able to study abroad, give them the choices to be able to study abroad. Yeah, what did you go through to be able to accumulate and build the finances you needed to have that happen?
I think it's just a combination of just some, I guess, good business decisions, but more importantly, good investment decisions, be it in stocks, be it in property, be it in, getting some passive income, be it in buying and selling stuff. But I think the key thing is in planning the for lack of a better word, the eventual accumulation. And it sounds very wasting, but knowing that you have these payments to come.
Right.
It's the way actuaries think of the future in advance. I think it's important to plan ahead. I'll use a reference I did earlier of Valentines. It's funny. For most men, Valentines hits them in the face either the day before
Right.
or actually on the morning when they
Right.
wake up and see people in red. You're like, oh, oops, it's that day again.
Right.
And Kenyans generally around Christmas time, we always act as if Christmas doesn't actually happen on the 25th every year of December. So on the 20th, people are wondering why there are no planes, why there are no hotel bookings in Mombasa, and how come planes are not or train tickets are not available. Because people planned earlier and bought them earlier, maybe. Same thing.
Yeah.
You have children, at some point they're going to need primary school, secondary education, maybe university, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just, I think, a case of just planning ahead with anything you want in life. I think you can always achieve what you want in life. Maybe not in the timeline you want it, but you can always achieve what you want in life with just good financial acumen, which means sacrifice. I think that's why a lot of people sometimes don't want to have their cake and eat it, but you have to sacrifice to save money, to invest money, to put off buying that phone, put off buying that pair of shoes, put off buying that thing that gives you a lot of pleasure. Remember, this is coming from a hedonist, so this was against the grain,
Right.
totally against my philosophy.
What are some of the things that you feel like you sacrificed for, I guess, for your family, for your kids to be able to have the life they did? Like, do you have a vivid memory of one day, like, whether it's like, what?
That's the only answer. Where do we start? I mean, everything. I mean, at the end of the day, oof. Let me put it in reverse.
Right.
I'm hoping to retire in a few years' time.
Right.
I cannot wait because my account is going to, even the bank manager has to call me and say, Ella, how come there's so much money suddenly? Yeah, I'm going to enjoy that money.
Yeah.
So in reverse, there's a lot of money I haven't enjoyed, obviously,
Right.
because I've had to put it into education and upbringing and raising, and together with also their mother. It's been a joint effort. In this day and age, you work together towards this. So, I mean, there's so many things I've sacrificed by not buying a new car, buying I don't know. There's so many. It's hard to even start, identifying how many things I've sacrificed, holidays or this, that, and the other. Obviously to give them the best that I could.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of sacrifice, definitely.
Let me ask you a question in this existential sense. So, a person will, go through their being raised by their parents, right? Start working,
Yes.
or find some sort of way to begin to generate income,
Yep.
right? Then you get kids,
Yes.
right? And then at some point, you're now sacrificing. You're not really able to use the amount of money that you're generating or that
Absolutely.
you're making, and you're sacrificing for the kids.
Absolutely.
Right? And the hope is that, and again, I'm reading off of what you're saying. The hope is that at some point, the kids would be able to be independent.
You will kick them out of your house. That is, just call it what it is. You will kick them out and say, get out.
Right.
Earn your own money.
Right. And then at that point, you then enjoy the money that you've made.
Can I just soak in that moment for a while and just fantasize a bit about how it's going to look? Yeah, that's actually it.
That's like that's a really long journey. I mean, like yours, it's
not a short journey.
60 year.
It's not a short journey.
Yeah.
Are you calling me 60?
No, I mean,
Oh,
because
okay,
you're retiring
I'm
in
teasing.
because you're retiring in 5 years,
I mean,
right?
look, it's not saying that you stop everything just to. With proper planning, you can have your cake and eat it. You can provide enough for your children and still have a decent life. I'm not saying that necessarily, and it is a privilege to be able to do that, to be able to give them the best and still, enjoy a pretty decent life.
Right.
Again, it all comes with a lot of planning. Sometimes some people want more than they can afford and then go out of their way to provide everything for everyone else except themselves. I'm not a believer in that, to be honest. I'm a believer also, back to my heaven on earth thing.
Yes.
I'm a believer in not necessarily also putting off living till you can, because you don't know what tomorrow holds. So, for example, let me just give you a practical example.
Right.
Sometimes some people want to take their kids, let's say, to an IGCSE school.
Right.
Okay? But they know it's very tight on the finances, okay? And it takes a lot of sacrifice. Look, I have nothing wrong with that. However, if by doing that, you're going to be so stressed until it's actually affecting the quality of life you're actually enjoying as a family, it means so you can't go on holidays, or you can't buy this or that, or you can't help, it's even affecting your business. If it's going to that extent, I feel actually there's nothing wrong with taking your child to a public school. Absolutely nothing wrong. There are so many good schools, because at the end of the day, it's really the ability of your child to excel in life, and it won't necessarily be determined by which school specifically they went to. There's successful kids who've come out of IGCSE schools, and there's successful kids who've come out of public schools, for example, okay? And I've gone on to do amazing things, including running this country.
Right.
So what I'm trying to say is find a balance within your budget. I think work within your budget. I've seen a lot of people straining to the point of even getting sick under the guise of, I'm trying to give the best for my family. Yes, but are you really giving them the best? If you're going to be so stressed, you're not even spending quality time with them. If you ask most young children or most young people, what is the one thing they want most from their parents? It's not to be in the best school. It's actually just time with their parents. That's where the wealth really sits, is being able to create memories, to mentor your children, to actually have time. So if by doing that, it's going to take your time away because of being stressed out and everything, then
Good.
I think find a good balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we now get to like the retirement phase, and you planning for your retirement, do you have a figure in mind that you're working towards, or have you always had a figure in mind that you're working towards?
So, yes.
Yeah.
I've always had a figure, not always, but at the age of 44, I talked to an actuary friend of mine, and I said, these are my plans 10 years ago. These are my plans, and I want to retire at this age, etc., etc. What should I do? And I was given some sort of, actuaries are the best people. By the way, please, everyone, get to an actuary friend, the end. Not that they all do it for free. I was very lucky. But, I think the message here is really, do you have a retirement plan? And what you need to do to actually retire with happiness.
Right.
When all these things you've spoken about, when you stopped educating the children, when you can actually enjoy your money, what is your plan to... Are you planning to enjoy your money, first of all? Not everyone is.
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing. I am.
Yeah.
I definitely am. And not that I've never enjoyed my money. This has to be very clear. It's just that I'm going to enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah. You said your plan is Brazil?
Yeah. I think Brazil, like a Caribbean cruise. Now you're asking about sacrifices. Yeah. Those are some of the things that have been sacrificed over time.
Yeah.
Is those things, and then, so that's my midlife crisis. That's when it's going to show up. You may postpone, by the way. I want to combine it with retirement and midlife crisis.
At the same
it's
time.
The best combination.
Yeah.
I want to do a lot of fun stuff. I don't think I'll stop working, but I'll stop because I'll do the things that I want to do, not necessarily the things I need to do anymore.
Right.
It's a fine line between the two. Sometimes a thick line and a fine line.
Right.
And I've been lucky to do a lot of the things I want to do and that I also need to do. And they're sort of, some of the things are the same.
Right.
But they're still, it's still hard work.
Yeah.
So I'd like to take, the gas off the pedal a little and just do a lot of CSR, actually. I really want to do a lot more CSR, I think, in my retirement. So I'll still be busy.
Yeah.
Just maybe not waking up at 5 a.m.
Right.
Except to walk.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you say you met your friend and had a conversation about 44. Do you think if you'd had that conversation 10 years earlier, then your retirement could even have been better, so to speak?
Because I have a financial background, I think I was quite lucky.
Yeah.
Because I had my own plan in place already.
Okay.
This was really, and I had a plan up until 60. This was really just to solidify it, to sort of nearly fine-tune it and audit it in a way.
Right.
And I wasn't so far off, actually, with the plan, but it just gave me some things I hadn't even looked at. So it's kind of panel beat it,
right?
If I can say that.
Okay.
It was panel beaten.
Okay.
Into a now solider plan. But yes, I think It's important, I think, especially for young people, thinking about, their future early.
Right.
Because at one point you will be young, and then at one point you will be older.
Right.
And when you're younger, and I look at myself now saying I'm turning 55, I mean, when I was, let's say, 28, the thought of somebody even over 40, in my head is like, they must be going to the grave immediately. And the 40 seemed, somebody who's 40,
Right.
45 seemed like such an old person.
Right.
Goodness me. And those were my parents at the time. And my mom just turned 84 the other day, and she's fit as a fiddle. And I wonder how she thought of 84 when she was 28 either, as well.
Right.
So even me now at 55, thinking of 84, I'm like, wow. Mom, see, you're old. But at one point, hopefully, touch wood,
Yeah.
I will be turning 84.
Yeah.
Again, what have I planned for that as well?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't stop at retirement. It's like, and is there enough to push you till, what if you live long?
Right.
Some people act like, they're dying tomorrow. So they'll spend it all and say, well, tomorrow, we'll deal with tomorrow. Okay, that's fine. But I think a little planning really helps. If you're 28, if you're 25, if you're 21, and you're thinking, will I ever own a home? The best time to start is now.
Let me ask you, if the things that you can share, what were the core tenets of your plan? If you're able to break them down in like principles.
So I think part of my opportunity came from the money I'd saved when I was working in the UK. And it was in pounds.
Okay.
So it helped when I converted it.
Yeah.
But I think saving and investing wisely and safely. Invest in products that will give you safe, especially when you're younger. Yes, they usually say when you're younger, take the bigger risk. But actually, I'm the opposite. I was more cautious when I was younger. Invest in whatever investment it is. There's so many investments now. It's not just stocks and bonds and everything, but it's all kinds of investments, whether it's in property, whether it's in other businesses, whether it's but invest in things that will keep your money safe and increase it over time. And I think it's the slow tortoise that wins the race kind of thing. When you're trying to achieve certain things like buy a house, buy a car, just haba na haba ujaza kebab. So save pole, sacrifice a few things. You might have to sacrifice a few nights out because you're going to spend 5K that you don't have or 3K that you don't really. You'd rather say, okay, this weekend I'm not going out. I'm putting this 3K aside into this sacco or into this and that. Then next week I'll go out. So it's a bit of just a little bit of planning, I think, that helps you now. You might take you 15 years to get a home. It might get you 5 years. You might get, for example, the other thing I always tell people, when you get money you didn't plan, windfalls, just put it aside.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't in your plan.
Yeah.
I had a few windfalls in my life, which really helped me, I must say, accelerate the process.
Right.
And you've got to learn to just manage that. And what I usually say about windfalls, take 15% of it, blow it.
Right.
Invest or save the rest.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially it's around planning.
Yes.
I am being given something here.
Leakage. Is that more Kenyan?
Okay. All right. So basically there's an element of planning.
Yes.
Element of investing.
Yes.
I guess there's a windfall, I guess, in terms of accelerating certain processes.
Yep.
And also being able to enjoy life and a couple of sacrifices, right? Okay. Interestingly, this is really a question around, I guess, because when this episode goes out, it'll be just before the month of March, which I guess is the international celebration of women as a whole.
Absolutely.
And our producer would like to find out, I guess, from your perspective, what you feel like the DJ space now is for female DJs and what opportunities there are and how that's changed.
I'd like to look at it, if you don't mind, in a wider format, maybe for the entertainment industry, because obviously I'm not just a DJ. There's a wider entertainment element of my life and history. Is what are the spaces in entertainment, I think, for women right now?
Yeah.
And I'll put it in different categories. I'll put it in three main categories. I'll talk about film, music, and related to music, DJing. I think the field for actors, producers, stage has exponentially increased for women. I think the space and the opportunities have really grown. And just pin that for now. I'll come back to that. In music, as well, I think the space for female musicians has really grown. The space for DJs, female DJs, not as much. I think it's growing. It's the one lagging behind, but it is growing. There's a lot of really dope female DJs coming up. I think particularly in the last 5 years. I think that's where I've seen the burst.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of DJs, too many to even name now, that have started up. So I think it's growing. It hasn't caught up quite with the film and music side, but I think it's growing. There's a lot of even all-female events where the DJs, the musicians, the people, basically a full female event, no men invited, thanks, that are happening, which I find really cool, to be honest.
Right.
So in that sense, yes, I think I would encourage, including corporates and other people, hiring, please consider that there are female DJs. Please hire more of them, give them more spaces, more opportunities. Having said all of that, I think there's an element I'd like to address. And it's safety at work, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm. I think the space for female creatives, I don't believe it's become a lot safer. Mm-hmm. I think they undergo a lot of challenges in the creative space, a lot of sexism, a lot of unwanted sexual advance, a lot of less pay still, pay disparity. Again, they'll always, a male counterpart has a higher chance of getting the place, the part, the job than a female counterpart. Yes, as I say, it has changed over time in terms of the opportunities, but I still think there's some disparities that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
And this can only come from, just more affirmative action around the creative space.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
From a policy point of view, from an attitude point of view, and just from a general support point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess, so there's work to be done. There are opportunities, but there's definitely work to be done for sure.
Absolutely. And more mentorship.
Yeah. Okay. As we sort of wind up, do you have a final money tip that you can share? Whether it's with general, in the creative space, whether it's just in the general space?
So I'll talk, because I'm a creative activist, so I'll talk about the creative space. There are 3 tips I'll just very quickly give in bullet point. 1, understand your IP assets. What do I mean? Understand how intellectual property affects your art. Intellectual property is the equivalent of, when you register or protect your intellectual property, it's the equivalent of holding a title deed for land that you own. Without it, it's very hard to prove it's yours. Without it, it's very hard to even work on it, because you can't prove that it's yours. So you can't build on it. You can't till the ground and make money out of it. So, because somebody else will steal it. So please protect your IP assets. That's the basis of everything you're going to do from there on. Secondly, please manage your costs. And by doing that, what do I mean? 1, don't be extravagant, but 2, also place things like insurance, home insurance, content insurance. If you're in photography or in music and you have equipment, please insure your equipment. DJs, I've heard so many DJs losing their equipment, or musicians, and I'm like, were you insured? They're like, And a lot of this can be put on home contents. Home contents insurance is one of the cheapest insurances you can get. Add your phones and your equipment onto it, and it'll give you a lot of saving.
Right.
The other saving is medical insurance. Please, creatives, get medical insurance. We cannot be fundraising for your accident, for this, that, and the other. You move a lot, get medical insurance. There's a lot of cheap options available, affordable. Come together in associations, get group insurance, etc. So that actually manages your wealth. Managing your costs, manage your wealth. Last but not least, manage your brands. And by that, I mean, don't let your brand drop. Don't accept jobs that are lower than your value. Understand your value. And don't sell short. It takes a lot of sacrifice, but if you fight for your value, eventually, trust me, you will get it. I can do a whole podcast on that on
Yeah.
its own. So those are the 3 quick tips I can
Yeah.
tell creatives.
Okay. I guess that's for you guys creatives. 3 great tips on how to essentially manage your money, have insurance forms, and not to take any less than you are worth. All right. This has been a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed it. And we will see you guys on the next episode of Financially Incorrect.